Thank you so much for being here. It is Thursday, July the 8th, and this is our budget workshop agenda for the Floresville City Council. Thank you everybody for being here. I call this meeting to order. And please rise for our invocation, and I'm going to call on Roy Idrick to say our invocation tonight.
Mayor, can you please get a time?
Yes, 5 Mr. Idrick, if you can come forward to line the microphone so I can help us, please.
Let us pray. Gracious Heavenly Father, we're here today to ask you and recognize that you are our Creator. We ask you for your guidance and for your support on what endeavor that we're about to make. In the name of the Holy Spirit and your Son, amen.
Thank you. Please join us for our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Under the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you. We do have a quorum for tonight's meeting in attendance. Mr. Councilman Villarreal, Councilwoman Martinez, and Councilwoman Marissa Jimenez via Zoom. Thank you, ladies. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being here this evening. Any citizens' comments?
We had no citizen comments submitted, Mayor.
Okay, thank you.
And Mayor, actually, we're going to have to wait just a minute because in order for us to have a quorum, Councilwoman Jimenez does have to have her video on. There she is.
Okay. All right, moving on to our workshop. I'm going to turn this one over to our finance director. The IT services overview. I know we had presentations from 2 companies in our last meeting.
Yes, we were just needing consensus from you all, just so I know budget-wise what we're doing towards documentation or Barcom. If there were any additional comments or any questions that came up that we can answer for you.
I think the question that I had was, what does the staff, how does the staff feel about the current situation that we are in on Barcom? And we've had experience with documentation. Has there been a general consensus of a preference?
Well, back in February when they presented, it was because Barcom had dropped the ball. Return times on tickets to resolve tickets was lengthy. Once documentation did come and do their presentation to us, of course, Barcom did come and they have turned things around. I wouldn't say 100%, but pretty good. I did have Evelyn call around the past week asking. There have been just 2 occurrences of a day lag or lengthy of having a response on a ticket. So they haven't responsive. I don't know if it's because they know that there is a risk of us changing.
And financially, documentation as opposed to Barcom, are they comparable in prices or contract information?
No, Barcom is just 30 days, month to month. We just have to get 30-day notice if we did want to change. And their yearly or annual fee is $65,000. Documentation is a 4-year contract, and it would be roughly about $120,000 a year.
And that's separate from our copy machines.
Yes.
Because we do use documentation for that.
Correct. Yes.
Council members, do you all have any questions or comments?
Those prices are for the same services?
Yes.
Same price?
That's like 60.
It's really hard to hear about them.
I just feel like, whatever, I'm for the staff, and whatever that your needs are, and they are fulfilled. That's how I feel. Because I don't know, what y'all deal with daily. And I know at one time I had heard that there was a few problems there, but Evelyn said that things have changed. But I just feel like my opinion is whatever the staff is in need of, and it's fulfilled. Whatever y'all think.
Is there a possibility of continuing with Barcom on a month-to-month basis and give them a couple of months to see how they go forward? Since there's no contract, let's say, for instance, at the end of the year, the calendar year, if we're not happy, if the staff is not happy with them, maybe review it at that time?
Yes, we just need to give 30 days notice.
Any other comments?
Mayor, I have questions.
Yes, ma'am.
Cindy, what was the price for reclamation for just IT services?
For the annually, it'd be $123,000.
And that doesn't include all of the equipment they're wanting us to purchase or to lease.
Correct.
So I don't know if you remember, Council, that Documentation, even though we had just purchased equipment, Documentation wanted us to buy additional equipment on top of the yearly fee and the 4-year contract. Am I correct, Cindy?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Has Barcom ever gone over the amount that they quoted us?
So it was all accounting, I guess. We had the end of life where we purchased new computers, and it was all put into IT services. So it looked like they had overcharged us. But once I went through every invoice for the year, they did not. They stuck to the contract.
My opinion is if we can stay with Barcom, but keep an eye on them and make sure that they're available. It's crucial that they service the police department and all of our computers or whatever our situation is on a timely manner. Hopefully they will not give us any problems, but my suggestion is to go ahead and keep them, use them, but review them on a regular basis. Council members, do you have any other opinions?
That big of a price difference that they're staying with Barcom is less of that. And if we do continue to have issues with them, I think maybe our next course of action would be, which I'm not sure if you heard that having the city manager let them know, like, hey, I think they got the message that we're looking elsewhere with the other one coming in. But we could actually tell them they already set it up.
And I'm sure there's other IT companies that we could look into if they needed to.
Because that price is really high.
And that doesn't include, yes, no, I'll get right to you, that doesn't include our, what do you call it, our yeah, that does not include that, which is another issue. Okay. All right, Councilwoman Jimenez?
Yes, I just had a comment about remaining with Barcom. I think there was, some misunderstandings on communication, but now that Barcom knows that communication is key, I think, like Councilman Villarreal said, that they are making it right. And if they know that we're unhappy, they will continue to make it right. I also think price point is a deciding factor, but also the fact that the other municipalities that they work with, I've called some of them and they are completely happy with them and have been with the types of services. And I think it's important that they know specifically what municipalities need and are able to service our city.
Thank you. So I guess that's basically our consensus going forward. But like with any company that we deal with, we do have to keep an eye and make sure that they follow and are there for us when we need them.
Mayor, if I just may add,
Yes.
if at any point we do decide to end the services with them, the city at that point will have to go out for proposals on that service.
Okay,
Okay?
thank you. Any other comments or questions? Okay, thank you. Moving on to item 1B, our water department. Mr. Villarreal is here with that, and Johnny?
Mayor, if I may interject real quick,
Sure.
we discussed how we wanted to present to you, the council.
Councilwoman Jimenez, in order for us to have a quorum, your video does have to stay on.
Meeting, sir? Can we try to contact her or?
I just did, and I sent her a request as well to.
For those watching on Facebook, we apologize for the delay, some technical issues, and we'll try to get those squared away as soon as possible. Okay, Ms. Jimenez is back with us.
Okay, Mayor, thank you. We'll continue. I know we stated on the agenda item, we put our Public Works Director / Water Supervisor as a presenter, but we discussed how we wanted to handle this. This is Fund 221, our water fund, and this is the utility fund is what funds this. I'd like the finance director to discuss the revenues and how she came up with these numbers, and then we can let Mr. Villarreal discuss his expenditures, what he's required to operate that department, if you allow us, please.
So the revenues are based off of our sales of commercial and residential water. So it's not tax based, it's all based on our revenues and sales. What I did is I went back 4 years just to see the trend on what we've been bringing in. Then I did look at the past 6 months on what our trend has been. And based off of that, I did do a projection of $1,395,000 for residential sales, and then you'll see the next line is in commercial sales is $650,000. In total, though, for revenue, I am budgeting $2,213,850.
And your increase is based on what, ma'am?
I went back 4 years, so I did look at trend, and then I looked at the past 6 months to see.
But the increase that you're seeing, I'm sorry to interrupt you, the increase you're seeing is because of...
Yes, development here in the city, and then I did speak with our development department, and just projections on what we see coming in. I'm confident in those numbers.
Okay, council, do you have any questions at this point? Because I know we're going to talk to Johnny in just a moment. Any other comments by staff as well?
One of the things that I'm proud to say is that Cindy is sticking to her zero-based budget process. She didn't just transpose last year's numbers to this year and then work from there. She zeroed out every single line item and did what she said. She looked back and looked at the history and then forecasted appropriately. So she's done a great job in estimating or forecasting the revenues that we should be getting.
And we have gone back to water cutoffs, delinquencies, correct?
Yes.
Any other questions, council? Yes,
Cindy, is there any, still people that like have not paid or we still have money out there that we need to float in or as far as penalties and, people that have not paid their water bill and I don't know what we did during the COVID season and everything.
Right, there's people, customers on, is it contract, they call it? Yes. You know, making payments, it's ongoing, so it just rolls over.
But you wouldn't happen to know like maybe a certain amount or.
I don't know a dollar amount off the top of my head, but I can get with Andrea and then I can let you know.
Okay, thank you, Cindy.
Mayor, I have a question.
yes, ma'am.
Cindy, can you please explain why the water hydrant deposit is zeroed out and also the meter charges?
So the water hydrant deposit, that is one that I want to move because it's a deposit. So they pay a deposit, so it's really shouldn't be considered revenue because we do reimburse or give back the deposit once, I guess they return. I don't, do they, is it because they're renting the hydrant? I don't, but we do give back. So if you look at the current year-to-date column, you'll see that there is a negative balance of 150. And that's because in years past, we've been considering that a revenue. Then just say they did a deposit in one fiscal year, then the following fiscal year, we refunded that money. Then that means that we have a loss the following year. So if it's a deposit, it should not be considered revenue. It shouldn't be recognized until either one, they, I guess, forfeit the deposit or there's damage or then we can consider it revenue.
Where is this accounted for now?
Right, well, I have to move that. It's going to be, on our side, it's going to be a liability. So it won't be, it's not going to be on revenue or expenses. It's going to be on our balance sheet, actually.
And the same for the meter charges?
And then,
It's 421-3421.
on that, I looked in the history and the only time that we've always budgeted nothing there. It's been zero. And then in 2020, we had $50 and then this year we've had nothing. So I didn't feel confident putting a figure for meter charges. And I want to say that's for damaged meters. I might be incorrect on that, but
Do we have a policy about paying for damaged meters?
currently we do not.
Is this something that we need to consider?
Yes.
So let's say a resident doesn't wait for our on-call to go in and do a cut-in, and they go in and try to do it themselves and they damage something.
So when that happens, that gets put onto the utility account itself. That's something that's done through billing.
Okay. So then what would be considered a meter charge?
Meter charges should be any time you have a new construction, you're actually installing a new meter and they're purchasing a new meter when there's no existing meter for the lot, the home, whatever's being put in.
So they can buy it or get a
Price
deposit?
to developer.
So when you're looking at deposits, your deposits most of the time come into play when it's bulk water cells. And that's why she says that they do a reimbursement on it because they're placing a temporary meter out there just to monitor how much water is being consumed from there. Once those bulk charges are paid by the contractor, whoever it is that may be doing it, that's when your reimbursement comes into place on that.
Thank you.
But isn't that, so these water meter connections, those are new connections.
Those are new connections.
And so how are we charging that temporary?
So those come off of your, where you saw, the one you have just asked, the water hydrant deposit, those are gonna be your temporary ones. That's when bulk water sales come into play.
Okay. So then, on the new budget, that line item will be removed completely?
So yes, I'm gonna it's gonna just be moved, I'm gonna reclassify that line item.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other comments? Cindy, before we go to Mr. Villarreal?
I do not.
Okay, Johnny, we're going to go to you. If you'd like to give us some information on that, on your line items.
Yes, ma'am, Madam Mayor. Good afternoon, council. How are you doing today?
Real good, thank you. Real good, thank you.
So our increase did go up, but there's several reasons for it. So our travel training did go up, but travel training is a big thing for our department, not only our department, but the city, keeping our employees educated, whether it's when it comes to drinking water or wastewater, making sure we're up to date with rules, regulations, codes, what have you. We're also getting 2 more employees in the water department, which do have to be licensed up to, at minimum, a Class C water license in order to become operators within our system. So depending on where they go, there is some online courses that we don't have to pay the traveling on, but they're kind of few and far between, and they fill up depending on what agency we send them with, whether it's TEEX or TRWA. Once those classes get full, we have to send them outside of, cyber. We'll have to pay for the travel or training. Depending on how far they're going out, sometimes they will stay. So just because of costs going up, we have to put a little bit more money in that. We're actually getting 2 more employees, so that's going to, lift us up when it comes to the cost of that. The fuel, tire, lube, prices of oil are going up, so we got to take that into consideration. So that's going to obviously raise our line item there. Pipes and connections, just inflation alone, PVC is going up kind of constantly daily. From the look of it, every time we order parts, it's like they're never the same price. Everything just keeps on kind of slowly rising. And anytime we order parts or fittings or what have you, our B Street well, our Hospital Boulevard, and our Plaza well is actually Plaza's going to go back into service as soon as they do drill that new well. Just having the adequate funds in those accounts when parts or pieces do go down, whether they either A, need to be replaced, or B, need to be repaired, or whether it's a simple electrical issue that we got to work on. Just inflation alone, we have to get more money in there. Tank maintenance is going to be another thing that we need to we try to maintain yearly, whether it requires.
Sorry, Mr. Villarreal, what page are you on, or what line item are you on?
It's going to be page 4, ma'am, and then he's down towards the department materials.
I'm sorry, it cuts in and out for me, so I'm like catching half of it, sorry. Thank you.
So do you just stay in order with the parts and tools?
You're doing good, sir. It's just a matter of we can go, notify the council what page you're on and what area.
Awesome, okay. So currently I'm in the department materials, like I was going over the wells, the B Street, the hospital, and the Plaza well. Just the prices of maintaining what we've got in our tank maintenance alone. Our tank maintenance, we try to do at least a yearly cleaning of our tanks. We have 8 tanks total that we do have to maintain. We do clean. We send scuba divers in yearly to go in, service them, maintenance them, take out any kind of turbidity or buildup that has happened or accumulated over the year, and just to kind of keep safe drinking water throughout our city. We do have one of our big items that we want to put on there. Can I talk about that? The background picture?
Oh, yeah, that would be capital outlay.
So I'm going to go over to capital outlay now. And that's going to be our Vactron truck that we're currently looking at the moment. The Vactron truck is a pretty unique piece of equipment that the city actually just got their hands on recently. Thanks to Ricky, we got one from the San Antonio River Authority, just secondhand. It wasn't nothing fancy, but we made do with what we had, and it actually made not only our jobs easier, but it was a lot less work on the guys, just allowing them to work through the summer a little bit better than having to dig up cold, solid, wet mud all the time. It's a good piece of equipment that we use not only in the water, we use it in the wastewater. It's a hydro excavating machine. Not only does it allow us to pressure dig under unique situations, whether there's a transmission fiber optic line that's in the way, or if we're digging along a gas line, what have you. It allows the city to be safe around other utilities. That's the main thing, is kind of digging in unknown areas now that we have the gas companies coming in, updating their lines, putting in new lines. We got Spectrum in, 181 alone. When we did that pipe bursting project, that thing worked magic for us, allowing us to work next to a AT&T transmission line. That line alone, if we were to hit it, no matter what pair that we hit on that board that's there, it would have costed us $50,000 right around for an hour of it being down, just because of the severity of communication that's going through that line, whether it's Homeland Security, NASA, Border Patrol. They all come through 181 on the west side. So whenever we are digging around that, we dig with caution. So we prefer not to take heavy equipment out there like backhoes or mini excavators. We prefer the Vactron just to allow us to be safe and not cause the city any money if we do just accidentally hit a line. When we're digging with water, it's a lot safer than actually digging with a heavy piece of equipment. So that's a big line item for us that we're kind of looking to get this year to add to our fleet. With the one that we currently do have, it's actually in the shop right now. There's several mechanical issues with it, whether it comes with electrical and hydraulic. So we don't know the exact cost quite yet. They're still diagnosing the problem. But it's going to cost us quite a bit of money to get it up and running. It's a great machine, the one that we do have. It's almost too big of a machine what we have. Just our small city streets, if we're working there. I think Miss Marisa was there when we were on the leak on 4th Street. When we're hydro excavating that main, just to allow the guys a safe environment to work, just digging around the pipe with it was helping us a lot. But we're shutting down 4th Street from end to end just so that we can have that truck in there. The smaller unit that we're looking at, we're able to shut down just a quarter of the road, if not half, depending on where we're at in tight areas, and get down to where we got to go and work safely. So that'd be an excellent piece of equipment that we can put into our inventory, and then we would auction off our older one in the government auction that we send everything to. Our booster pump station at Plaza Well is actually getting drilled up. This is all being capital outlay. The booster pump station that's coming in, we're going to have to get a booster pump station down at Plaza. What a booster station does is allow us to send an efficient amount of pressure out to our distribution system and keep our customers with adequate pressure. And then any extra water that stays within our lines, once our lines get full, that booster pump station sends it up to our elevated storage tower, which allows us to have kind of reserve water if something were to happen, a spike in demand comes up, or a big main break. We're able to actually work off the elevated storage tower water to keep us within operating parameters for the state. Infrastructure replacement. We do have an older infrastructure depending on, and this is all the capital outlay, depending on where we're at in the town. We got quite a bit of AC asbestos pipe that we kind of need to pull out of the ground. Some valves that we need to replace, so it would be sections of our distribution system that we'd actually be, updating, replacing, repairing. The camera system, that's going to be something that just for safety and security for our facility down on 1st Street. We have a lot of nice equipment. We got those 3 beautiful trucks plus our normal utility units that we operate, and just to be able to keep a safe eye on things, to prevent people or deter them from trying to break in or steal. And also a hike and bike, updating the hike and bike trail. Do y'all have any questions?
I think mine would go back to Cindy. Do you feel the water residential sales and commercial sales, do you think those are kind of optimistic, real, it could be a lot better than what they?
Right, it could be better. It more than likely will be better, honestly, but
But to be on the safe side, we use these numbers to balance out, but I think we all know new construction is coming in around every corner.
Correct.
So,
Yes.
and then that machine that you were talking about, and I'm sorry, I can't remember exactly what you were talking, what it was called.
It's called
I know what
a
you-
hydro excavator. It's a Vactron.
Yeah.
It's a combination truck that allows us to not only hydro excavate, but it's also a sewer machine as well. So we can actually service our sewer system as well, flush out sewer lines, big mains,
And
etc.
that comes out of capital outlay?
Yes, ma'am.
And I'm going to speak on that, actually. I did meet with, it's Kinlock Equipment and Supply. They did come out and let them actually see the actual unit. And I know that you did call another city to, see what their thoughts were on it. But they do offer a capital leasing program that it is $52,000 a year for 5 years, but it's bumper to bumper warranty. All maintenance is covered, all repairs are covered. They do give a loaner if it did go down, so we would not lose any time, not having one. And then once the 5 years is up, we would have an option to purchase, or you trade in for the newer one. But they do, the life expectancy before there are any issues, he said, is 5 years, so that's why they do a 5-year contract on that. Then after 5 years, whenever you do expect to start seeing issues with the item.
And Mayor and Council, just for your information, we did consult with Victor Quiroga, our financial advisor, in regards to this lease purchase program, and he said that was within our ability, without us affecting our budget in a negative way.
And this is what the staff would recommend, because ultimately, the staff is the one that would be using it, relying on it, getting the phone calls at all hours of the day and night.
Yes, ma'am. All they would love it. And the great thing about it is it's a non-CDL required unit. So all we basically have to do is train, whether it's the whole crew or certain individuals just to operate it, but there is no special licensing or anything required to actually operate that machine, other than the knowledge that you need to know to actually move what levers to get what going. So it's not going to require us to send a whole bunch of people to go with their CDL just to be able to operate this truck. As the Vactron that we do have now, you do have to have a Class B CDL, so it limits just about only a handful of people can actually use it, just to be able, even touch the unit, just for liability purposes. With this new unit, we can just train who we need to train, or all of them, so that way they're able just to get on it and go this way.
I'm going to open the floor to council members if you have any questions or comments.
Question and comment whenever you're ready.
Okay, Mr. Villarreal first, and then I'll go to Ms. Jimenez.
No, she's okay.
Okay, Councilwoman Jimenez.
Okay, thank you. Well, I just want to say thank you to Johnny for doing all of the research, and it sounds like you really investigated which that vehicle would be the most appropriate for our city. So thank you for that. My next question would be towards Cindy. Since it is for water, wastewater, would you be dividing that capital outlay between both departments?
On this particular item, no, we're going to keep it with water. They use the majority of the time.
Thank you. Councilman, did you have a?
Okay, and my other question is back towards the city manager. Have we filled those 2 positions that we allocated for?
Councilwoman, our department head and HR have done several interviews. I believe that he is at the point where he's going to extend some job offers within the next, he says tomorrow. So he's he has spent a lot of time researching or visiting with people and seeing what the best fit for our water department is going to be. They've got a solid crew right now, and they'd like to incorporate the 2 individuals that are going to fit right in and help out as much as possible. You've seen them out in the field, and they do an excellent job with the small amount of numbers that we have. So the 2 additions are going to be very well welcomed, and also the piece of machinery that we get. I've been out there with them, and we've seen how they struggle at times with bad equipment when it's not working. So the right people and the right equipment are going to be unstoppable.
Thank you. Councilwoman, did you have any other questions?
That's it for now, thank you.
Okay. Councilman, did you have a?
Yeah, I noticed here you have a line item for Med-AM/drug screening, but there's never been any actual expenditure or budget for that. Was there any intention to be? I was just curious.
Yeah, we do have, like we've talked about before, we've got our employee handbook which addresses those issues. So yes, sir.
All right. Any other comments or questions? Or any of our staff members? I guess the final one, Cindy, is that I know you put your stamp of approval on this, and it must have taken a lot of work. So I saw the zero ballot, zero. So thank you very much for that. Mr. Villarreal, is there any other, maybe a wish list that you might have in the future? Or I know we're looking at economizing as much as possible, but are we good to go with with our needs at this point?
Yes, ma'am, most definitely. I think if we get everything that we need to be, I think like Andy said, we'd be unstoppable, we really would be. I think we have a great set of guys, just adding 2 more good hands with a really, really good team, yes, ma'am.
Okay, great, thank you. Did somebody have a comment that I stepped over? Okay, Mrs. Martinez?
What I want to say, so you're fine with the budget that we have, or Cindy and Andy have already, and we approve it. So in the future, you're going to be okay with what we have?
Most definitely, yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much for doing that for us.
Thank you.
We've come a long way, Councilwoman. We incorporated every department head during our budget workshops, the internal ones, and we allowed them to draft their own budget. So Cindy, of course, put the numbers together and presented it several times to them, and they've done a good job incorporating that. So they take ownership of it.
And we sure do appreciate that.
I think there was another comment by Ms. Jimenez, am I correct?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I was just wondering, we have mosquito control. What are we doing for that?
We have been working on that for some time. We had a local organization that got bought out by some different owners, so we've been working with them. That is gonna happen this week or certainly next week. Cindy confirmed with them our needs on that. We used to do, had our own equipment at one time, but that was sold, so we had to start from scratch, and we've been working hard with that. So our citizens will be happy when the process starts.
I do have another question about, on the expenditure side for Riverbend meters and boxes. I mean, we had 35,911 for year-to-date, and you're requesting 40. But what about those other subdivisions that are in the works, or that we could talk about? I'm just asking specifically because this is specific to Riverbend. So should it just be? Does it need to be called Riverbend? Do we have to have different line items for different subdivisions or different?
We should have, we work with the categories that were in there currently, but we will have to amend those as we grow in regards to that. I believe Cindy wants.
Yes, but right above that, it's meters and boxes, so that's in general that's where everything happened. Then, the rubber band meters and boxes, I did a separate line item just because we do get reimbursed by their connection fees. So I wanted to separate so we could visually be more transparent on how much are we actually paying for these meter and boxes and how much money we're actually receiving. But yes, as other subdivisions do open, I will be adding a line item for them. So that way there'll be that transparency for those.
Any other comments or questions?
Thank you.
If there's no other comments or questions, we really appreciate everybody working together on the water department. Before we move on to the next one, just leaving the floor open for any comments or questions on the water department. Okay. If not, we're going to move on to wastewater, the wastewater fund.
That is Fund 222 wastewater fund. Ms. Cindy, could you go over the revenue aspects before we turn it over to Ricky and Dave?
Yes. On this one, again, this is just off base sales, not based off taxes. I used my same type of methodology as I did for water. I went back 4 years, looked at the trend, and then I also looked at the past 6 months. And then again, all the development and new development and the subdivision, everything that's coming in, I am confident in with the new revenues that I have on there.
And what figure is that, ma'am?
One second. So we're looking at revenues of $1,842,350.
Okay. Again, we're looking at the wastewater penalties as opposed to last year's budget, correct? You can next list. Any questions for Cindy or Mr. Johnson? Okay. If not, we'll continue.
Ricky or David, if you want to take over on the expenses, and I know the first, on the second page is the administration portion of the wastewater fund. If you go to 3, and then page 4 is where the field employees are budgeted, so I think, David, we can start going through that, you and Ricky.
We'll go with that first on page 4. We have a pretty well-rounded budget. I just, my few increases that I want to go over on supplies and materials. Travel and training, just as John and Mr. Vieira explained earlier, it plays a big part in our department as well, with renewal hours and classes and travel and training, the travel to keep our operators up to date with their licensing and all their certifications. Our wastewater plant maintenance is another one, which is one that I've been very frugal in spending this year, but it is coming up to where a lot of the stuff in our plant is needing a lot more maintenance. Our basins have been switching over. We're having to do a lot more lubrication. It's going to need more belts for our press, and this budget is where I'll be pulling all of our money out. So that increase, I do think, is going to be a big part. It'll play a big part this year. This coming up budget year. Water sampling, of course, our water sampling, it's a must, and we do, it's kind of, we're going with the yearly increase and as PCS goes up every year, just a bit. Let's see. There is a big jump in our river bend, which was requiring a new panel The panel is it's outdated and we are requiring a new panel for that lift station, for the rubber band lift station, especially being that we're having all the housing coming in. We can't have any problems with that pump going down and those pumps in that lift station going down. We don't have too many other increases other than that I expected to see other than the capital outlay, which I'll turn over to Mr. Prosper.
So, some of the stuff that we included in the capital outlay was access to the Jimenez property, which is the outfall of the discharge from the wastewater treatment plant. This was not a violation, but it was a recommendation from TCEQ from prior inspections. So we do need to have access. It needs to be easily accessible to them. Currently, the way we have access to it is we jump the fence, and we kind of huff it through the trees and the overgrown brush. That is not acceptable for TCQ. We do have permission from the Jimenez's and the Jaden property to go through there and go through that process, but it's not something that TCQ inspector is willing to do. So we do need to give him access. Part of that was putting a gate in, putting in some base, something that's easily accessible, and that's the term that they use in TCQ. So we included that amount in the capital outlay with hopes that you would approve it, and we can make that sufficient enough for TCQ to get in and out and actually go out and take a look whenever they feel necessary. We included the GIS software. This is an update that I feel real strong about. I hope everyone else, as the years progress, we need to keep up to date. This would help us kind of track our water and wastewater growth. Currently, our maps are updated in between 5 to 10 years. So the maps that we do have, they get outdated, and with all the new subdivisions coming in with the GIS software, we just simply request shape files, input them in, and everybody instantly has access to the new sewer lines, depths, manholes. Not only helps, later on in the future, but the guys in the field, if they're cleaning lines, we can mark them. There's various different softwares and services that we can go through. So this is kind of just the general cost for that, and then we can shop around and find the best cost for the city and what works best for the city, because they do have to be customized towards the city. We can include I want to say the sludge depths of some of the lift stations in the GIS. It has access to locations. We can mark manholes, valves, sewer manholes. We can take pictures. Everything will be stored online, unlimited access. It's just moving up to date, and as the times grow, of course, if somebody retires, we don't want them to take all that knowledge with them. So we highly depend on the guys in the field currently to let us know how deep that sewer line is or that water main. With this information, it'd be pulling up a cell phone or a tablet at that location, and we can see really close and have a good idea of where that line is. So part of our capital outlay, we included the camera system as well, which is just security. I know Johnny spoke on that as well, but that will be including it at the wastewater treatment plant as well, which we have had instances in the past. People breaking in, people getting into the yard, and we've had the police called out there several times just for certain things. So it would just add that added security. And of course we added in a little bit for the hike and bike cleanup as well. So we wanted to add that in there as well. And that I think Johnny spoke on that one also. So that one's kind of a shared cost between us as well. Any questions?
You want to put it to the council? And the city, you've gone over it with our department and with our city administrator, so we're comfortable with these figures because we're going to rely on your expertise, all members, to give us the information. So it has been a general consensus.
Correct, yes, we did meet to brainstorm, give me what they needed, what they were wanting. I was pretty good at being able to actually meet everything. I did cut here and there a little bit, but nothing that was detrimental to what they were wanting. Then they were given the budget, and then they were, I asked if there was anything missing or any comments.
This is just a thought off the top of my head. Our IT contracts, do they also cover out at the water treatment plant and our water department? So it's covering everything.
Correct.
I'll open the floor to the council members if you have any comments or questions.
I just think that the staff, you guys are doing a great job in trying to help us out, cut here and there, and of course Cindy she's got a backbone and she's gonna tell you no. So, you know, I just feel very proud of what y'all are doing.
Council, might I add, David Noya did do some numbers, ran some calculations, and I don't know the figure off the top of my head. He could probably hit you a little better with that, but he was able to save the city quite a bit of money through our actual sludge disposal through the new belt press. And he saved us quite a bit of money. I mean, it's not just a few $1,000s. I mean, if you want to touch on that a little bit.
Yes, I did. Well, Ricky and I, we went to a couple other disposal facilities, and I ran some numbers off, based off our 2019-2020 sludge report, which shows our nodes and our tonnage. And last year we did 66,500. If we go ahead and, which I am already switching, we switched over and we are using this facility now, that'll change our yearly rate to 18,620, saving us roughly $47,880. And yes, ma'am.
We like those kind of employees saving.
Well, all of y'all have stepped up during 2020 and now into 2021 to get back on track. So we know you've been out there through thick and thin and hot, cold, and wet. So thank you guys so much for all you do. And again, council, do y'all have any questions pertaining to the wastewater fund?
And I also want to thank our, I just want to say just one thing. I also want to thank our city manager for working diligently with them and just trying to work with them and let them know where we stand also, Andy.
Thank you, council. And Ms. Jimenez?
Yeah, thank you. Just in general, because I know it's on every department, we have under equipment maintenance, equipment building maintenance, vehicle and equipment minor repairs, that is in-house, correct? And then major repairs is contracted out or outsourced?
Yes, ma'am, pretty much the majority of the time that's the way it works.
So, and then equipment major repairs, those are also outsourced?
Majority of the time, yes.
Okay.
Thank you. With no other comments or questions, I appreciate everybody participating in our workshop tonight. This was our first one, technically our second one, and we will have one again in 2 weeks. Regular council meeting will be next week. We had to do a little bit of adjustment on schedules, so we appreciate everybody being out. And any other comments by staff before I adjourn?
No, ma'am, we appreciate the mayor and council for your assistance and guidance, and we'll continue to work towards a approved budget.
Oh, okay. We had another paper in front of us. Was that in particular the WWTP daily operation?
That is just for your information and your review. I've sat with the wastewater treatment plant operators to see what actually they do. There's a lot of questions because they are pretty much on their own in that facility. And I asked them to write down what they do on a daily basis and who's responsible for what. They do an excellent job out there. One of the things that they had requested is possibly one more employee, and at that point I said, we can't do that at this time, But Johnny stepped forward and said that with one of his employees that was at that location at one time, that maybe he can help him out. And it's just driving that sludge to San Antonio and back. That takes their time. They have to leave the facility. So if we can work, continue to work as a team, it'll be doable.
Yes, Mr. Varela, how many employees do you have as far as the water?
17. I want to say 17.
The water?
Oh, just water.
Just
Water is,
yeah. I got 17.
no,
That's a lot of people.
that's crazy.
We've got our org chart right here, Johnny. We've got you listed 6, including the meter reader, 7 with yourself in the water.
Thank you.
Thank you. Again, thanks to everybody. Hope you stay safe this evening. And with no further items on the agenda, this special budget workshop meeting is now concluded at 6:26. Thank you.
Thank you, staff.